show today. I'm glad you're with me. I want to say thank you to all of our men and women who are in the armed services for all your sacrifices, and our first responders as well. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. Hey, look, if you've contributed to your company's 401k, good on you. I applaud you for that. That puts you miles ahead of millions of Americans who've made little to no effort to save for retirement. In fact, these statistics are troubling. Let me read you something. This comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. 2 out of 3 working Americans, did you hear that? 2/3 of working Americans have zero in a 401k. But nearly 80% of working Americans have access to a 401k. That, to me, is a stunning statistic. But, you know, there's something else you need to know about these 401ks, and I'm afraid it's not good. Many financial experts are claiming that the 401k plan is broken. And it's broken for a whole lot of reasons. For starters, it's way too complicated. And it's riddled with hidden fees and backdoor expenses and literally costing you a small fortune. And frankly, you just don't even know it. You know, according to MarketWatch, the 401k is at best inadequate and worst a colossal failure. But hey, don't take their word for it. Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Tony Robbins, New York Times, 60 Minutes, they've all reported on the distressing issues that happen with 401ks. Even Ted Benna, the guy who invented the 401k, recently admitted that he created a monster. And I'm going to tell you his story in just a minute. And he says it should just be blown up. So if you're counting on your 401k to help fund your retirement, what can you do about all these issues? Well, on today's show, I'm going to try to help reveal some of the problems with your 401k and what it's costing you, and then how to help you get back in control of your retirement. So let me tell you the story about this fellow named Ted Benna, the guy who is credited with creating the 401k. Actually, he really didn't create it. It was a tax code that he discovered. Because Ted ran a employee benefits company, and he is a very Christian, religious-oriented fella, and he felt very strongly that he needed to try to get the word out about this 401k. So when he discovered this subsection, I guess this was back in the early 70s. I think it was. He started spreading the word about the 401k plan and how you literally could save, virtually tax-free and have a tax deduction when you put your contributions in there, and companies could match your contributions. And by and large, what's taken place since then, we've got 50 million plans holding over $3 trillion in assets. And, back then, Ted believed he did the right thing for people. But in recent years, he says that looking at it now, he's created a monster that should be blown up. And he said this back in 2011. That's 6 years ago now. The reason being, the plans have become so complicated and so fraught with hidden fees, expenses, that basically it's enriching the financial industry and not really enriching the people that it was intended to. That's you, the contributor to the 401k plan. Now think about it. When you signed up for your job, they probably said, oh, here's your benefits. You got health insurance, you got this, that, and the other, you got paid vacation, and you got this thing called a 401k. And they threw it in your lap, and that was pretty much it, right? No kind of instruction other than, hey, we'll match you dollar for dollar up to 3% or whatever. And you say, hey, that's a good idea. So you started putting money in your 401k, but did you know how to invest it? Do you know the rules around how to get money out of your 401k? Do you know the fees in your 401k? You know, if you look at the available options to invest your money in, it seems overwhelming to most people. And yet, your employer won't give you any advice. And honestly, most of the 401k custodians give you very little advice. What are you going to do? Do you just pick one of those target term funds, which quite honestly, that's what I see most people doing because that's the best option for them because they don't know anything about the other funds that are available. And there's a big problem with those target term funds. Huge problem. They just never did what they were designed to do. A target term fund, folks, is basically a fund that says, for example, target 2025. Well, basically what they're saying is that would be the year that you target your retirement. And the closer you get to that year, basically the fund is supposed to be managed in a more secure, less risky fashion, but it hasn't turned out to be that way. In fact, some target term funds back in 2008 and 9 lost over 35% of their total value. Well, look, if you just joined us here on the Wealth Guardians today, we're talking about your 401k and some of the problems with it and how to fix it. And look, I feel so strongly about this issue. I am holding this month, March 14th and 16th, a workshop on 401ks and IRAs. It's the ins and outs of them, the rules, the regulations, how to invest, the fees, and so forth. And I want you to come. I want everybody who's listening to this show today to sign up and come. It's March 14th and 16th. It's 6:30 in the afternoon or evening, and we're going to have it in Clemens at the Broyhill, the Broyhill Convention Center. So give us a call at 336-391-3409 or go online and register at thewealthguardians.com on the events tab. Hey, I'll do you one better. Go on my website, www.thewealthguardians.com, and I have on there a white paper about 401ks. I want you to download it and read it. If you own a 401k, download this white paper and read it. Then I'll even do one more better for you. If you come to my workshop, bring that white paper with you. And for the first 5 who bring it in and show it to me, I'm going to give you an Ed Slott roadmap package. Now, what is that? Well, Ed Slott, number one, is the foremost expert on IRAs and 401ks in the nation. I happen to be an Ed Slott elite master IRA expert in his group. Ed does television shows on PBS. You may have seen him, and he's been doing them for years. As part of his show, he gives away a package of videos, workbooks on retirement planning, IRAs, and 401ks, and charges $149 for that package. I'm going to give it to the first 5 who come to my workshop with my white paper in their hand. Absolutely free, no obligation. Okay, so get Ed's roadmap to retirement. It's $149 value just by coming to my workshop March 14th through 16th at 6:30 in the evening at the Clemens Broyhill Convention Center. All right, so let's get back to the 401k and some of its issues. You know, over the past quarter century, these 401k plans have evolved into a dominant retirement plan. And in fact, they have replaced pensions. And if you don't contribute to your 401k, likelihood you're not going to have a sufficient retirement. But there's some problems. And let's take a look at 6 problems that exist with these plans. The first one is it's got some structural flaws associated with it. And here's one. You've heard the term dollar cost averaging. That only works really when you're when basically you're contributing to your plan. Dollar cost averaging is the idea that as the markets move up and down, You constantly contribute every pay period to your 401k. You're buying shares of your mutual funds at lower prices, at higher prices. And over the long term, if the markets are up, then you're going to have more shares at higher prices in your 401k. The problem exists is when you get closer to retirement and you actually have to think about taking funds out of your 401k. That's where we have a problem called reverse dollar cost averaging. So think about this. You're pulling money out of your 401k, the market's going down, and say you need $1,000 a month. For each drop in the market, you're having to take $1,000 out. So that $1,000 withdrawal means you have to sell more shares to create the same $1,000. You are depleting your 401k at a faster rate than you otherwise would. That is a structural flaw in your 401k plan. So we really want to guard against a reverse dollar cost average situation. Now, is it easy to do? No, it's not easy to do. Nobody gives you any guidance on how to do this. We're going to try to help you. We're going to try to help you if you will download the white paper I talked about a few minutes ago. We'll talk about this issue and that, and come to our workshop on March 14th and 16th. We'll give you some ideas there on how to help stay away from this phenomena of reverse dollar cost averaging. We're going to get back to more of the problems with the 401k when we come back from break. But again, I feel so strongly about this issue that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the 401k because, quite frankly, nobody talks about it, and nobody's helping you at work with your 401k. Your HR people don't even know how to help you. All right, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians here, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hey, welcome back into the Wealth Guardian Show. This is Doug Ray, and today we've been talking about your 401k and all the problems that exist in it that you might not even know about. You know, many financial experts are saying that the 401k plan's broken, just flat broke. And it's broken for many, many reasons. For starters, it's become so complicated, nobody can figure these things out. It's riddled with hidden fees, backdoor expenses. You don't know how much you're paying in fees on your 401k, and I'll bet you your HR people don't know either. So if you're counting on that 401k for retirement, you might not have what you think you're going to have in that 401k. So what can you do about these issues? Well, if you just joined us, listen, I feel really strongly about this because I see every day people coming in with these 401ks and they're absolutely, well, let's just say they're not allocated properly. People don't know how to allocate them. They don't know what the funds mean. They don't have any idea what a high yield income fund means. It's really a junk bond fund. They don't know that. I want to help you. I want you to understand what you have. I'm holding a workshop that is geared specifically for you folks who have 401ks and IRAs, and I want you to come. It's March 14th and 16th, 6:30 in the evening, so it's late for you folks who are still working. I don't care what age you are. I want you to come and learn about your 401k and how to manage it properly. March 14th and 16th at 6:30 in the evening. It's going to be held in Clemens at the Broyhill Convention Center. All you have to do is register by calling the office at 336-391-3409 or go to my website, thewealthguardians.com, and click on the events tab. You can register right there. And by the way, I'm going to absolutely fatten the offer for you. While you're on my website, I want you to go and download a white paper I have on 401k plans. Now, I'm going to throw something else into the mix here. If you bring that white paper to my workshop either night, the 14th or the 16th, for the first 5 who bring it and show it to me, I'm going to give you a package that Ed Slott created called his Roadmap to Retirement. Now, what's in this package? Well, Ed, if you've never heard of him, is a master IRA 401k expert trainer. He is known as the most educated person in the retirement planning field as far as 401ks and IRAs. He's a CPA by trade. He has for years been on the PBS TV stations with his various different shows about retirement planning. On those shows, he offers for people calling in a package of DVDs and training material for $149. That's what he charges for these things. But they are great learning tools. They are in HD, high definition quality, well done, professionally done, and I think you'll learn a ton. So if you come to my workshop, the first 5 each night that brings that white paper you've downloaded off of my website, I will give you Ed's Roadmap to Retirement package, $149 value. Again, all you have to do is call the office at 336-391-3409 or go to thewealthguardians.com, click on the Events tab to register for the workshop. Yeah, just do yourself a favor. Just come to the workshop and learn about your 401k, all the things you've been missing. So let's get back to some of these problems that you probably weren't even aware of that you had in these 401ks. A moment ago, we talked about the structural flaw. How about long investment time horizons? What do I mean by that? Well, you've got this smorgasbord of mutual funds in your 401k that you're supposed to pick from, and you can move your money from one to the other. There's some restrictions in some 401k plans as to how often you can move it. But the fact is, most of the people who manage these funds probably aren't going to be around for the next 10 years. I distinctly remember when I first got into this business in 1988, one of the best mutual funds going was Fidelity's Magellan Fund. And the manager of that fund was world-renowned, Peter Lynch. In fact, the fund did so good under his management, they actually froze it to new investment. They wouldn't take any money. They wouldn't take any more money. And it's simply because it was just too successful. Everybody wanted to be in it. And when that happens, when you get too much money in a fund, it waters down the performance. But he retired. And Magellan, for a few years after that, had another fund manager who had a pretty decent track record with it, but he retired too. And then Magellan basically was no longer the great Fidelity Magellan Fund that it once was. So it's unlikely that your fund manager is going to be there as long as you're going to be there. And you need to know how to change funds. Do you have any idea how to pick a mutual fund in your 401k? What the risks are? Are you a risk-averse person? Do you just buy something that says target term? That's what a lot of people do. And I spoke about that in the first segment. I don't like these target term funds. I think they're misleading you. All right. Another problem is administrative costs. There's so many hidden fees in these 401k plans, it'd make your head swim. It's not just the fee that your company has to pay to maintain it. It's a fee that is ongoing in the mutual funds. It's fees that are extracted kind of in a hidden way. You don't even see it come out. But they add up over time, and fees are nothing more than a drag on performance. The sad thing about them is this. They're going to cost you money over time. And if you're counting on, say, a 4 or 5% overall rate of return on your 401k plan for retirement, you're probably not going to meet that return. And that doesn't sound like much. Many of you think, I should get 8 or 9% on my 401k. That's not going to happen, people. Not going to happen. Maybe you've got it a couple years, 3 years in a row. The last few years have been pretty good years. But overall, over a 20, 30-year working career, you're not going to see those kinds of returns. Now, for you business owners, heads up, listen closely. If you sponsor a 401k plan for your employees, do you understand you have a fiduciary responsibility to that plan, and you are personally liable to your employees for that plan's performance and its cost structure? Do you know that? I have found that most business owners have no idea that they are personally liable for the 401k plans that they have provide for their employees. Again, if you want to learn more about that responsibility, pick up the phone and give me a call, 336-391-3409. Okay, another problem for everybody, not just business owners, is the lackluster record keeping. It's difficult, extremely difficult to keep track of, and you're just not going to get what I call investor-friendly statements. Behind the scenes, folks, there are record-keeping things that go on that you don't even know. And I'll give you a perfect example. Right now we're in tax season. And most of you are filing your 1040s, right? You're getting all your tax receipts and everything together to take it into your accountant to get your returns filed. Well, guess what? Your 401k plan has to file a tax return as well. And not only that, it has to go through these tests, meaning that a 401k plan under the Department of Labor rules has to meet certain rules and regulations as far as funding requirements. In other words, the highly compensated individuals of a company can't, in a percentage-wise fashion, be made better off in their 401k plan than the average worker. In fact, it goes against the highly compensated if you have a workforce in that company that is under contributing to the plan. They will not be able to contribute as much as they might like. So all this paperwork, these record-keeping things have to be done. Typically, it's done by what we call a TPA, a third-party administrator. That costs money. Now, who pays for it? Well, ultimately, you do. I mean, the company you work for typically pays, the TPA for their work and effort, but it's like everything else. It all filters down to ultimately you, the consumer. We all know corporations pay taxes, but then they don't, because the taxes they pay ultimately come out of the price they charge you for whatever goods and services you're buying from that company. It's no different in the 401k, no different at all. All right, so moving on, the number 5 problem is subpar investment design and low quality options, or some have no quality. These 401k plans are just wrought with just mutual funds that are awful. They're either fee-laden or they're just not very good performance in those funds. By the way, folks, I hope you know this, but 90% of all mutual funds and money managers out there do not consistently beat the Standard & Poor's 500. They don't, and it's a proven fact. So many of you just have some really bad options to choose from in your 401k. Number 6, and we'll wrap up the show with this, is complex tax implications. How do you get money out of these plans? Well, there are a myriad of different ways. If you take money out too early, you're going to get taxed and penalized. If you retire early, there's rules about when and how you can take your money out. Can you leave your money in the 401k plan? Should you roll it over to an IRA? On and on and on I go. Learn about your 401k. Come to my workshop March 14th and 16th at 6:30 in the Broy Hill Office and Convention Center. Call us at 391-3409. Go on my website at thewealthguardians.com, click on the events tab, and register right now today for this workshop. And remember, I'm going to give away Ed Slott's Roadmap to Retirement for the first 5 folks at each workshop. That brings me the downloaded white paper I have on thewealthguardians.com. All right, folks, we'll see you next week right here on The Wealth Guardian Show.